Yes, we know today is Constitution Day. On this day, on 26 November 1949, the Constitution of India was adopted by the Constituent Assembly. It was adopted on 26 November 1949, but began to be enforced from 26 January 1950, which has been continuously celebrated as Republic Day. And why it could be enforced on 26 January 1950? Only because of adoption by the Constituent Assembly on 26 November. So the adoption day is very significant. And yes, it is significant. We have got direction from the ministry also to celebrate this Constitution Day. So because of this 26 November, because of adoption on 26 November, India becomes republic, India has become parliamentary democracy, and India becomes the largest democracy of the world. And as we got instruction from the higher authority, from the ministry, we shall begin the program with reading of the Preamble. And after reading of the Preamble, as chairman, I may have some introductory speech. Then that will be followed by speech of the resource person. And vote of thanks will be proposed by Dr. Lalhmingliana, Assistant Director, IQAC. And so the copy is placed here on your table. That is the Preamble. And what is the significance of Preamble? Here, this Preamble, it is few wording, but the whole ideology and philosophy of the Constitution is contained in this Preamble. Because of that, it is given significant importance to this Preamble. And for reading out Preamble, I think it will be better if we all raise up and read it out with standing. Okay, we'll start. Preamble. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution. Please be seated. Okay. We have just read out the pledge, the ideology and philosophy of the Constitution of India. And before I call our resource person, let me mention a little bit about how the Constitution of India came into being and how the Constitution was prepared. And as we know, the Constitution of India came into written form only because of the contribution of the Constituent Assembly. And how this Constituent Assembly was formed. Constituent Assembly was formed on the basis of guideline drafted by Government of India Act of 1935. And on the basis of Government of India Act of 1935, election to Provincial Legislative Assembly in British India was conducted in 1945. And those representatives elected in Provincial Legislative Assembly, they in turn elected members of the Constituent Assembly. So the election of members of the Constituent Assembly is more or less like election of Rajya Sabha member now, through indirect election elected by member of the Provincial Legislative Assembly. Then altogether, there were 389 members in the Constituent Assembly. So 296 from British India, 93 from native states, and 4 from Chief Commissioner provinces. Then, but after partition of the country on 14 August 1947, then some of the territory, East Punjab, then eastern part of Bengal, they became sovereign of Pakistan. And after that, member of the Constituent Assembly also decreased to 299. And the first sitting of this Constituent Assembly was held on 9 December 1946. And before independence, Constituent Assembly had 4 sessions. Then after independence, it had 7 sessions. And the last session was held on 26 November 1949. On that day, this Constitution of India was adopted. So we are now observing this adoption day. That's how this Constitution of India came into being. And in framing the Constitution of India, it took more than 2 years, almost 3 years. Members of the Constituent Assembly, they put their heads together, then they collected it from different sources, but majority of the sources of the Constitution of India has been derived from Government of India Act of 1935. So today is really significant because on this day, Constitution of India was adopted by the Constituent Assembly. Okay, that is about the background, how the Constitution came into being. Now, may I call Professor Lalrintluanga, Dean School of Social Sciences, to deliver speech on the specific topic, fundamental duties.
Allow me to do off my mask, okay? I'll not speak at the top of my voice because I'm not comfortable to speak with this. At the same time, since we teachers are accustomed to speaking, standing while speaking, I don't know whether I will be comfortable or not to speak in sitting. Okay, in one of the program organized for the celebration of our Indian Constitutional Day, I gave one lecture, if I remember it correctly. I gave a lecture on the 3 pillars of Indian democracy. And today I'm going to speak on fundamental duties of the citizen. And as spelled out by our chairman, these fundamental duties have been incorporated in our Constitution after so many experiences that our nation had passed through. In order to make full understanding of these fundamental duties, I need to trace the origin of our Indian Constitution and as spelled out by our chairman, how it came into existence. And using this as the background, I will briefly introduce the fundamental duties of the citizens of India. Our Indian Constitution traces emergence in the year 1946, when the first meeting of the Constituent Assembly was held on December 1946. In this meeting, Dr. Sachinan Sinha, who happens to be the oldest member of the Constituent Assembly, was elected as the provisional president. But when the Constituent Assembly met again on 11 December 1946, that assembly elected Dr. Rajendra Prasad as its permanent president. And this Constituent Assembly set up 13 committees. The people in Northeast India are very much well aware of excluded and partially excluded areas. And this was one of the committees. And today, what we need to focus is that Among these 13 committees, the Constitution Drafting Committee was there. And this drafting committee was called upon to collect different types of opinions from within and outside our country as spelled out by our chairman. And this Constitution Drafting Committee was to initiate the drafting of our Indian Constitution. And we all know names like Dr. Ambedkar. Dr. Ambedkar was one of the constitutional experts, and till today we cannot forget his name because of his contributions for getting our Indian Constitution adopted. And I'll not point out other names, of course. There are 7 members, and out of these, we are very much well acquainted with names like Dr. Ambedkar. On 27 August 1947, the Constituent Assembly, through its resolution, as I spelled out, appointed the drafting committee, which sat for its meeting on 30th August 1947, and Dr. Ambedkar was elected as the chairman of the drafting committee in that meeting. And the main foci of our drafting committee were Republican state, then parliamentary supremacy, and an independent judiciary, and lastly, the fundamental rights and federal system. Now, if we carefully look into these terms of reference, to me, our Indian politicians were farsighted. Our Indian democracy is that much loose, unlike the United States of America, though each state has been and is being given a breathing space to take care of itself. That's why I really praised the members of the drafting committee of our Indian Constitution. And on 4th November 1947, the drafting committee submitted the initial draft of the Constitution, and the final draft was submitted on this day. These days means on 26 November 1949. And this final draft got signed and came into operative on 26 January 1950. And here, what we need to know is that our original Constitution contained fundamental rights, and today sometimes we almost misuse our fundamental rights, and maybe because of the misuse of right to property has been converted into legal rights, and originally we had 7 fundamental rights. And out of the original fundamental rights, right to property has been transformed into legal rights. And of late, in 2017, there is an addition to our fundamental rights. The Supreme Court of India has made right to privacy as one of our fundamental rights. Now, we are very much familiar with our fundamental rights, but most of us are not well acquainted with what duties we have to perform as the citizen of our country. Then, while the 7 fundamental rights were incorporated in our original Constitution, fundamental duties were not included. And these fundamental duties were incorporated in our Indian Constitution by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act, 1976. And those days, some of us might not know the time that I'm talking about. And the year I was reading in class 6. the 47th Constitutional Amendment was passed in the Indian Parliament. And those days, Mrs. Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister of India. And Mrs. Indira Gandhi declared emergency and Maintenance of Internal Security Act. And in some insurgency-torn areas, this another severe act was enforced. And now my point here is that through such kind of experience, Mrs. Indira Gandhi and her ministry were convinced that it was necessary to introduce 42nd Constitutional Amendment in 1947. And this 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act was adopted, was incorporated, I should say, as part of our Indian Constitution upon the recommendation of Swaran Singh Committee, which borrowed this concept of fundamental duties from the then USSR. This Swaran Singh was the longest serving cabinet minister, and perhaps he had the trust of Mrs. Gandhi, and he was made the chairman of the committee to look into those subjects or those areas to be included in our Indian Constitution. Then let me get it short like this. Fundamental duties were incorporated in our Indian Constitution. Then what are fundamental duties? Fundamental duties basically imply the basic obligations of the citizens of our country to promote patriotism, then safeguard our sovereignty, and strengthen our unity as a nation. And since that time, to my understanding, nation building was also moving forward at the fastest stage. Let me share with you this. When we were students in the university, I used to ask some of the students from one particular state from Northeast India. I asked them whether they claimed themselves as the citizens of India. Then they said no. Then till that time, I was also not convinced to accept my citizenship as the Indian Indian. The reason being that we were under insurgency, and we were groomed by some political ideas that told us that we were not the citizens of India. But after the signing of the court, Mizoram Peace Accord, I claim myself as the genuine citizen of India. And why I say is that those days, nation building was moving forward as fast as rate. I was one of the few students who could not be convinced. But now I am very much convinced. I duly accept that I am the citizen of India. Why I am saying is that if the citizens of India do not claim themselves as the citizens of India, how could they work for the promotion, for the safeguarding of our sovereignty and unity as a nation? That is my question. Therefore, I wish this Constitutional Day reminds us of our responsibility as the citizens of India to safeguard our sovereignty and work for the unity of our nation. Now, according to this 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act, it is the duty of every citizen of India to abide by the Constitution and respect all its ideals and institutions, our national flags, and our national anthem. And today we are very much psychologically improve or psychological or mentally making improvements in these regards, and even the uneducated people are showing respect to our national flag and national anthem. Then this is the area where we have to groom people in our respective areas. Secondly, it is the duty of every citizen of India to cherish and follow the noble ideals that inspired the national struggle for freedom. And initially, some people in the peripheral areas of India might think that they were not responsible to fight for Indian independence. No. Even from this very tiny state, there were more than 10 freedom fighters for our Indian independence. And last time, one of the longest, second longest, if I use the word longest, maybe I may be wrong, one of the second oldest freedom fighter who lived in Doungel was decorated by the British India before his death. And those days, initially they were the British Army, but afterwards they were the freedom fighters for Indian independence. Now, I'll take much time, so I'll go a little bit fast. And thirdly, it is the responsibility of every citizen of India to uphold and protect, as I've said, our sovereignty, unity, and integrity of our nations. And next, it is our duty to defend our country and render national services when called for. Take, for example, in case we wage the wars against Pakistan or China. If our government of India requires your service and my service, then we are responsible to make contribution in this regard. Next, it is the duty of every citizen of India to promote harmony and the spirit of common brotherhood among all the people of India, transcending religions, linguistic and racial and sexual diversities, to renounce practices derogatory to the dignity of women. Here, we need to have tolerance. Let me tell you my own experience while I was a college-going student. Once we went as far as Mumbai and on study tour. Then, while we were having sightseeing, we halted in one restaurant. Then in that restaurant, there was one so-called educated person who was very inquisitive to know about us. Then we gave him answers to his question. Yes, we are the citizens of India. Then that gentleman who claimed himself as the student of final year BCom did not know where Mizoram was lying those days. Then out of anger, I replied him, in our state, in our Indian territory, every elementary going student knows where Kashmir is and where Maharashtra is. Don't you know the place where Mizoram lies? Here, why I'm pointing this out is that I did not have any toleration those days. But with the passage of time, we know each other, then we can accept ourselves as our country brothers and sisters. And this is what our fundamental duties wants to materialize. Then next, it is the duty of every citizen of India to value and preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture. Now, within India, different kinds of cultures, but they do not clash each other. We use the culture of Métis for decoration of our Indian culture, Then we use the culture of the Mizos for the decoration of our Indian culture. And likewise, we use the Tamil culture for decoration of our India. And we use the Kashmiri culture for decoration of our Indian India. Therefore, our political executives were very far-sighted in entertaining each and every culture for the decoration of our Indian Union. And here, today, even here in this very state, people have started valuing and valuing or acknowledging the importance of preserving our rich and heritage. And as the citizen of India, we must value and preserve our rich heritage of our composite culture. Let me share with you one experience I have come across. There was one scholar from Japan, and quite by chance I met with him. Then we started chit-chat. Then I asked him whether he admired India or not. Then his reply was very beautiful. We, the Japanese, really admire India because of its long heritage. Therefore, it is our responsibility to value and preserve our rich cultural heritage. And then next, it is the duty of every citizen of India to protect and improve our natural environment, including forest, lakes, rivers, and wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures. And today, even in this very tiny state, people in the rural areas are very much aware of the importance of protecting and improving our natural environment. Without asking for any financial assistance from the government, YMA members are preserving their rivers, they are launching cleanliness drives, and they preserve aquatic animals in their respective areas. And to my understanding, this is the impact of these national duties, though those people working for the preservation or for the protection and improvement of our natural environment might not realize, but practically they are implementing one of the clauses under our fundamental duties. Then the next point is, it is the duty of every citizen of India to develop the scientific temper, humanism, and the spirit of inquiry and reform. And here we know, in India, we know how to appreciate the human quality of others. Whether I'm studying or I'm learning machines or other things, but we can value, we can give value to other human beings. One thing I remember is that one Mizoram lady was appointed as one of the teachers in one school in Japan. And I really wonder how one Mizoram lady could be a teacher in Japan. Then her reply was like this: in Japan, our educational system gave utmost importance to science and technologies. And most of those who concentrated on the studies of science and technologies do not understand humanity. And in order to teach those students in the technical institutes, we need to we have to offer humanities subject. Why I'm saying is that even here there are different kinds of subjects. Some are in physical science, and some in life science, and some in social sciences, and some are in humanities. But we all can appreciate our respective values. That is what I want to emphasize. Then the next point is, it is the duty of every citizen of India to safeguard public property and to observe violence. It is very difficult to construct, but it is very easy to destroy, is it not? Therefore, as a citizen of India, we must safeguard our public property and we must refrain ourselves from violent activities. Then the next point is, it is the responsibility or duty of every citizen of India to strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activity, so that the nation constantly rises to the higher levels of endeavor and achievement. Means we need to build good teamwork. We may be sometimes individualistic, but we need to know when we should work together, put our heads together for making some good achievements for our nation state. Now, as I have said, those are our 10 fundamental duties, but by 86th Constitutional Amendment Act 2002, the original 10 fundamental duties were increased to 11 under Article 51A, Part 4A of our Indian Constitution. And this amendment has one important lines under these fundamental duties. That is, every citizen who is a parent or guardian to provide opportunities for education to his child, or as the case may be, works between the age of 6 and 14 years. It means it is compulsory for the person from the age of 6 to 14 years. Here, what I want to tell is that though fundamental duties are not justiciable, but these fundamental duties have been guiding our policymakers, and which is why today, under SSA, it is compulsory for every parent or every family to send their children attaining their children from the age of 6 to 14 years. And now, while fundamental duties are not in the category of fundamental rights, but our policymakers respect our fundamental duties and they are being guided by our fundamental duties while making decisions for a particular part of our nation or for the whole of India. Now, I'll stop here, I'll cut this short because I have taken a long time. And on this Constitutional Day, let us all dedicate ourselves to carry out our moral responsibilities to promote patriotism and safeguard our sovereignty and strengthen the dignity of our nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Lalrintluanga, for making us aware of the background and the content of fundamental duties. Yes, we know rights and duties are two sides of the same coin. If a citizen is aware only of his right but is not aware of his duties, then his imbalance grows. That's why, in order that citizens should grow balancedly, he or she should be equally aware of both fundamental rights and fundamental duties. Thank you so much, Professor. Now, may I call Dr. Lalhmingliana, Assistant Director IQAC, to propose vote of thanks.
No problem, sir. I will be. So, respected Pro Vice Chancellor, Professor J.K. Panay, Controller of Examination, Professor Lalrintluanga, Chairman and Director IQAC, Professor J. Doungel, our Speaker, Professor Lalhmingliana, who is also the Dean, School of Social Sciences, and all faculties and students. So it is my great pleasure to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. On behalf of the IQAC, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to our speaker, who has given a speech on fundamental duties, and for sharing his precious time and for enlightening us on the topic of fundamental studies, fundamental duties, which is really very much important and relevant to all of us. And I would also like to thank to all the faculties, staffs, and students for attending this function. And lastly, a very big thanks to each one of you who has made this function, the celebration of a Constitution Day, a grand success. Thank you very much.